Good evening, everyone. We would like to welcome you to our 2024 cohort of our Code Enforcement Academy. It is course number CD 1002 in our NPU University. This is a 5-session academy, and it will educate students on how to fight blight in their communities by identifying and reporting and tracking coding violations, such as abandoned blighted properties, illegal dumping, overgrown lots, and trash in the right of way. If you are a first time NPU University student, raise your hand. And if you don't know how to do that yet, we'll show you. Anybody? Okay. Love that, love that, love that. Okay. All right, so we have a few housekeeping rules. We ask that you keep your microphones muted. As you know, it can be a slight distraction for our participants. You can grab a pen and paper to keep notes, and feel free to grab a snack. Again, we'll be here till 8 p.m. Also, please keep your cameras on in order to receive course credit. This is a certificate course, so every participant will receive a certificate at the end of the course. They complete all 5 courses. To ask a question during our Q&A, you'll raise your hand to get in the queue. So we ask that you don't do those outbursts, because you might have a thought that comes to you. Raise your hand and we'll show you how to do that for those who don't. All questions must be relevant to the course content. So I know today we will have our APD, Atlanta Police Department Code Enforcement on, as well as ATL 311. And you might be tempted to ask about specific personal things. Don't do that. We don't want to put your personal business out here in the wonderful world of Zoom. What you can do is take down the contact information, or I can send you all the information and you can contact them directly. But if you want to ask them something directly related to the presentation, that'll be fine. And apparently Zoom has changed their raise your hand feature. So instead of that reactions button at the bottom, there is a react button at the bottom. It has a little heart. So cute. Once you click on it, you can click raise your hand. So for those who need to learn or do that, try to do that really quick. You cannot do it from your, if you're called in, you can't do that. Perfect. Awesome. Okay. All right. So we are joined tonight by our wonderful ATL 311 department, as well as our Atlanta Police Department Code Enforcement. And I'm going to actually allow them to introduce themselves directly when they start to present. So we're going to go ahead and start with our Deputy Director, Parks from Code Enforcement. I'm going to turn it all over to you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Atlanta Police Department's Code Enforcement presentation. My name, of course, is Laleen Parks. I'm the Deputy Director for that section. Would you like me to do my team, or you want everybody?
No, introduce your team. I'm sorry.
Tonight, I also have with me Jocelyn Lowers, our Code Enforcement Manager, which she manages our Compliance Resolution Division. I have Ayanna Smith, our Code Enforcement Supervisor, along with Vincent Jeter, another one of our Code Enforcement Supervisors, and Miss Letitia Brown, one of our Research Technicians. And we will be tag teaming, they will be tag teaming the presentation tonight. Let me. Oh, it's not going. Let me share until you stop.
I apologize because I didn't even introduce myself. We're just so sorry. This is the 30th class for this year that we've taught. So I apologize, you all. My name is Samantha Terry. I'm the Senior Program Coordinator here in the Department of City Planning. And specifically, I manage education and training initiatives within the Department of City Planning, but specifically for the neighborhood planning units. And we have Ade Santana, who is our program operations manager in the neighborhood planning unit office. I am so sorry, you all. Is it working for you, Lillian?
I think you have to stop sharing before I can.
I didn't know I was still sharing. I'm sorry.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, that's weird. Hold on, you all. There you go. Okay.
So the Atlanta Police Department's code enforcement section is under the direction of course, our Chief of Police, Darren Shearbaum, our Chief Administrative Officer, Marshall Freeman, and our Director, Daphne Talley. My thing going fast. I'm all the way down here. We said we were gonna start it off with a little trivia, and it looks like they put the answer. So in December 2011, City Council approved to transfer the Office of Code and Compliance Operations and budget to the Atlanta Police Department from what department? Of course, they left the answer on here, so that would be the Department of Planning and Community Development, which we were under before we moved to the police department. And the next slide is just a view of our organizational chart, showing we have a total of 92 total positions within the APD code enforcement section. And I will turn it over to our code enforcement supervisor, Ayana Smith, so she can go through the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to start off by talking about what is code enforcement. Code enforcement is the prevention, detection, investigation, and enforcement of violations of statutes or ordinances regulating public health, safety, and general welfare. Next, we're going to go to what we enforce. The APD Code Enforcement Section is responsible for the inspection of private property, including residential, commercial, industrial, and multifamily properties that are in violation of the Atlanta Housing Commercial Maintenance and Industrial Codes, along with other applicable ordinances. We're going to start with the process. The complaint comes in and it is received. It is entered into our computer system called Excella, and it is automatically assigned to an area officer. There are a few ways in which a complaint can be filed: by phone, 311, by fax, by email, atl311@atlanta.gov, by walk-in to our office, which is located at 818 Pollard, 3rd floor. You can also turn in complaints at the NPU meetings, and they can also be generated proactive from inspections. So our goal is always to provide quality customer service to the public and constituents, helpful information to ensure efficiency and swift service, to know the address of the property, to also know the violations that are existing on the property. It helps to know if the property is secured or unsecured and where the trash and debris is located. In addition, it's nice to know if the structure is occupied, how long the property has been vacant, if there is potentially fire damage present on the interior and exterior. It's also helpful to know if there's no property on the vacant lot and if the lot was actually developed or not. It's also helpful to know if the violation is in the public right of way as well. Knowing the owner's name or tenants can also be assisting with the complaint as well. So right here we have a flow chart of how the inspection process goes. Once the complaint is filed, an inspection is done. If there is no violation found, then the property is complied out. If the property does have violations that do exist, the case then goes to research, and then a citation or placard notice can be issued. After that, they may receive anywhere from 2 weeks to 30 days, depending on what the violations are. A reinspection is done after the due date of the notice, and if it's not complied, the case may end up going to municipal court where the owner may have to make an appearance, and then also they may be charged a fine as well. If they fail to not appear for court, they could also possibly be fined as well. If the property is found to be in compliance prior to the court date, then the case can be closed out at court by the judge. So we just have a little trivia question again. The city of Atlanta is divided into how many neighborhood planning units? The actual number is 25. When a complaint is filed, it is automatically assigned by NPU to the code enforcement officer that is assigned to that area. If a customer or the owner may have questions about the property or inquiring about what is going on as far as the violations, they can do an open records request. This is done through APD, Open Records Department, and it must be submitted by fax, mail, or online. You can also call and speak to them as well to have this process started. And it can also be done online. And what's listed below is the mailing address if you would like to submit your request by mail. Okay, so we're going to start with the process. The officer inspects the property thoroughly for all violations. If the homeowner is present, a notice is issued by hand delivered, in which the officer would hand deliver a notice to to the owner at the property. If the homeowner is present, then a citation can be issued as well if it is a highly hazardous case. And, okay, once the ownership is confirmed, a notice is mailed or a citation is processed for the service to the homeowner. If the homeowner is not present at the time of the inspection, a notice or citation can be issued. They can also leave a door hanger, and if there are junk vehicles on the property, those may be placarded as well. If the violations are found to be corrected after the notice has expired, then the case can be closed to comply. If the violations remain, then a citation or civil complaint can be issued to the homeowner. And this is all determined after the reinspection. So next we're going to talk about the difference between the citation versus the civil complaint. Under the criminal status, criminal citations personally served to individuals owning property. Subjects are fines up to $1,000 per day and potentially 180 days in jail. If it is a civil property, meaning the property is owned by a corporation or LLC, complaints are then mailed via certified mail. Personal service is eliminated. Failure to appear may result in the entry of a judgment in the absentia if at court. Civil penalties and costs associated with city abatement may result in liens against the property. So code enforcement has two different categories when it comes to complaints. The first type of complaint is property maintenance, and those receive a courtesy notice, and those are for items such as trash, overgrowth, junk vehicles, parking on illegal surface, structural damage. And if the case is a highly hazardous type of case, then it requires an immediate citation. And these are for properties such as ones that are open and vacant, severe structural damage, no heat, and unsanitary conditions. We just have a picture of what trash and debris looks like on the property. Another example of trash and debris on the property and the parkway. Here's an example of what overgrowth looks like on a property. Next, we're going to talk about junk vehicles. Junk vehicles are defined as any motor vehicle, mobile home, bus, travel trailer, utility trailer, boat, construction equipment, including trucks, tractor trailer, farm equipment, mowers, motorcycles, self-propelled motorized device of any kind, not within a completely enclosed structure which is inoperable, ruined, wrecked, or dismantled, partially dismantled, that has been discarded, abandoned, or which is otherwise rendered inoperable, unsafe, or which cannot be legally operated on as a means of transportation, or what does not bear a current registration, or a current license, or a current state required inspection sticker. Removal of the junk vehicles from private property. This is the process that we're going to talk about a little bit. Placarded junk vehicles allowing 30 days to comply. Vehicle must be parked on the actual property, which is private property. What happens is the vehicle description is entered into the checklist into our computer program Excella and the standard comment sections. Complete the junk vehicle login email is what the inspector will do next. A notice is mailed to the property owner and owner of the vehicle. This is no longer the case. We no longer mail notices to the owner. The vehicles are only have a placard placed on them. Sworn personnel is still notified by supervisor to have the vehicle towed, and vehicles that are not accessible to be placard will require a citation. That is a photo of a copy of what the placard looks like that is placed on the vehicle. That is a picture of what an example of a license plate and also the VIN number that is found on the vehicle. This photo here presents an example of a junk vehicle. The license plate is missing and the tire is flat on the rear passenger side. This is another example of an old discarded mobile home that is considered a junk vehicle as well. This is an example of an inoperable construction equipment that was abandoned. This is an example of a vehicle that has been placard that is parked on a non-weather surface. This is a photo of a house that has extremely bad peeling paint. And this is an example of a house that has some structural damage going on. The walls of the exterior are missing, the siding is unfinished, and it's also missing fascia on the porch. This is a photo of an example of a property that is open and vacant. The front door is gone or missing, and the windows are broken out as well. This is a property that has severe exterior wall damage and also roof damage as well. This is an example of a structural damage property that is considered highly hazardous due to the foundation and the state of it not being in good repair. Those are examples of what we would call extreme overgrowth. And this is an example of growth on an undeveloped lot, an area which is without any public utilities, a vacant building, or even a driveway. It's never been developed. Another example of an undeveloped lot area. These are some examples of what violations are on the interior of a property. The first picture shows missing baseboard on the wall, and the second photo shows mold due to inadequate ventilation in the bathroom. This is an example of junk, trash, and debris on the right of way. This is also another example of junk, trash, and debris on the right of way. And when it's on the right of way, it's also enforced by Public Works as well. So now we're going to get into commercial properties. The section is 8-2095. Commercial properties include but are not limited to restaurants, shopping centers, malls, auto repair shops, laundry facilities, gasoline stations, body shops, fitness centers, things of that nature. It's basically a facility and or structure where there is an exchange of goods, commodities, and or services. This is two photos of a before and after of a driveway that was in disrepair and a photo of the driveway once it has been repaired. This is code section 8-295 for overgrowth of grass, weeds, brush, shrubs, kudzu, and other vegetation on commercial property. This is an example of stag water on a property, which is also considered a violation. This is an example of peeling paint on the exterior of a commercial building. This is code section 80295-7A, missing or inadequate 8-inch high opaque screening around premises of like a junkyard. So they're required to have their property screened in so that none of the junk vehicles or car parts can be seen. This is an example of a damaged light fixture, code section 20580. This is an example of Code Section 820953K, all wiring or cable shall be properly affixed or attached to the structure and kept in good state of repair, that such wiring be free of loose dangling parts, whether live or not, and that cover plates be provided on any exposed electrical outlets. This is an example of junk, trash, and debris, Code Section 8-209551A. This is an example of a photo of a damaged roof. This is an example of EPA approved storage containers for tires. This is an example of when tires are not stored properly. When hoarding and or stockpiling of junk scrap tires at a commercial property is observed, notify the EPA. Another trivia question: weeds, grass, and lawn areas cannot reach more than 12 inches in height is the answer. And then the second one is, which does not describe a junk vehicle? A, flat tire, B, does not display a current license plate, or C, cracked across the windshield. The correct answer is C. So for code enforcement, we do have a few different type of placards that are used for enforcement. Initial inspection placards with voluntary compliance. If the property is occupied, you can leave a door hanger. If it's unoccupied, sticks to the door or the window. Junk vehicles, you'll be sure to stick on the window of the vehicle. And vehicles are subject to towing within 30 days of the notice. So after the vehicle has been placarded, the owner has 30 days to bring the vehicle and or the property into compliance with the vehicle on it. Additional information about placards: open and vacant placards to warn the property is uninhabitable. And then we have residential placards, which are the most common. Those are posted on most visible areas of the property, usually like the front porch or the front of the house. Commercial or industrial placards posting on the most visible area as well, usually by the front door and or the address on the property. NREM is a placard that is posted after an NREM order has been issued on most visible area of the property. This concludes my presentation, or my part of the presentation, and I'm going to pass it on to Ms. Brown.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Letitia Brown, and I am a research technician with the Code Enforcement Division. My job is to research to identify property owners. Some of the tools that we use to identify property owners are Acela, Fulton County, their tax database, and the Fulton County Tax Commissioner, along with the Cobb County Board of Assessors, due to some properties falling within the city of Atlanta, but still being of the Cobb County, and GSCCA, which will help us determine transfer of ownership through deeds. In addition, we use Accurate, which is a way to provide addresses and some of the other pertinent information that we may need once we identify an owner, along with GCIC, the Secretary of State, but that would depend on if the property is owned by a business entity. And another one is iOS Claim Search. Sometimes we receive properties that are burned or that have had a fire, and we may access iOS Claim Search to find out what address the owner is using by their property being burned and therefore uninhabitable. And we also use Google Maps because sometimes within the city of Atlanta, you may have a zip code that seems like it may fall within the city of Atlanta, but it may be in fact be a different city. Okay, once we identify the owner, we put several documents within the case just so that they can be on hand for our officers who appear in court. Those documents are Fulton County records, the tax bill, deed. We complete a finder's report that we run through Accurint or LexisNexis that gives identifiers for the owner that we find. Secretary of State, if it's a business, we may include the driver's license, Google Maps once again. Some of our owners are deceased. If we get an owner that is deceased, then what we usually do is call probate to find out if there has been an estate established. If there is an estate established, then we will send the notice to the person that's over the estate. If there has not been a estate established, then we will run a relative report that will show us the next of kin, and that will be the person who will be responsible for the violation. The next part talks about registered agents. Whenever there's a business registered within the city of Atlanta and that business is who's responsible for the property, then we will send the registered agent, we'll put their contact information into the case just to make sure that they were notified. And we do put in comments to let every interested party know how we were able to determine relationship or ownership of the property. And then we also include identifiers, usually 3 identifiers. They may include the social security number, date of birth, and the sex of the identified party. The next section, I'm not sure who's responsible for it, but there will be someone else coming on to explain compliance.
Lillian, do you know who's taking over?
Uh-oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, this is compliance resolution. It's supposed to be Jocelyn Lyles. Maybe she's having some technical difficulties. So
Miss Lyles, you have to unmute yourself. She's talking.
Oh, she's talking.
Good evening, everybody. Is it my turn? My name is Jocelyn Lyles. I am Code Enforcement Manager, chiefly responsible for the Compliance Resolution Division. The Compliance Resolution Division for me is the light at the end of the tunnel, because when we are not able to achieve voluntary compliance through the means that have been described to you, that case is turned over to the NREM or Compliance Resolution Division. We attempt to get compliance the easy way, and the easy way is to reach out, contact you, let you know what we need you to do and get it done. The other part of it is to either go through court, resulting in fines, resulting in liens against the property, resulting sometimes in jail time, and those kinds of things that tend to be extreme and get your attention, but we'd rather have you voluntarily comply. When a property is left abandoned and unloved, overgrown, highly hazardous, either open and vacant, or with a lot of structural and cosmetic deterioration, we evaluate that property and take it to the next step. Can we go to the next slide, please? Obtaining compliance the hard way means that this property has been sitting and it has been abandoned, and it's time now to take action against the property. Initially, the hope is that when we are able to meet with the people, we can get the people to comply with the property, but unfortunately, that doesn't happen all the time. And so we have to escalate it to a manner where we are pursuing the property to take action against the property, and in order to abate the problem that's being created in these communities. So our objective is to maintain public safety. And so the two ways that we do this and taking action against the property is either one, through the judicial in rem process, or through the administrative in rem process. This is resolution through city action. When we pursue resolution through city action, we are taking action against the property, and the Compliance Resolution Division provides a hearing once a month, the fourth Thursday of the month, 10 o'clock in the morning at City Hall. At that time, a group of properties that we have evaluated for deterioration and further recommendation to take action against the property, we present information, the evidence, both in the form of a detailed quantitative report and also a photographs and the commentary from neighbors and from owners as well. In this situation where your in rem process goes, and you have two types of in rem, judicial in rem and administrative in rem. And administrative in rem are the people, we are the ones that conduct the hearing once a month on the fourth Thursday of each month, other than Christmas and Thanksgiving. Christmas and Thanksgiving, it may be the third Thursday of the month, so that we can continue the work that we do of making your streets and communities safer. After evaluation of the property for each of these properties, a title search is requested. That title search yields the owner of record and all parties in interest who are notified. Our notification process takes several forms. One being posting directly to the structure to let you know of the date of the hearing. Two would be a notice to the owner and all parties in interest that are identified in a title search. The next one, 3, is going to be advertisement in our legal newspaper, which has to be presented to the public 2 weeks before the date of the hearing, at least 2 weeks before the date of the hearing. And then the third, or rather fourth, is called a lis pendens, and that lis pendens is a cloud on the title. And if you're familiar with the real estate process, cloud on the title means that a mortgage company will be wary to bother with it. A title insurance company will be limited in their ability to insure a title when you are dealing with the sale or transfer of a title. What we do is we try to get the attention of the people who own it. And since we cannot do this voluntary compliance, our effort is to go the next step, to evaluate the property to determine whether or not the property is 50% more or 50% less than the value of the structure minus the land. When we evaluate the property, we'll present this evidence to a board of directors, not board of directors, I'm sorry, I always say that, but a board that consists of several people from the community, real estate people, legal people, people involved in nonprofit, people that are your neighbors and friends. They sit, listen to the evidence presented, and after that evidence is presented from the city, then you have the public who is able to testify. Also, we've recently had this hearing televised. And so that too, while the individuals on the other side of the television can't necessarily testify, there are those who are able to get access to activity around in their neighborhood as it concerns them and also their friends' neighborhoods. At any rate, at the end of the time for the hearing, once a recommendation for demolition or clean and close is made, it's going to take 30 days from the date of the hearing, that is the date of the order, to take action. We are allowing another 30 days for the owner or parties in interest, be they family or partners, for them to take action. At the end of that 30 days, another process begins. Now, the NREM process is a multi-layered process, and that multi-layering comes from the fact that when we attempt to get these properties into compliance, we spend the public fund to do so for demolitions, for clean and close, and for also now that we are utilizing clean and cut. We have contractors who we've employed to be able to assist with taking action against the property. And so while the clean and close and clean and cut, we're able to employ those contractors a lot more quickly. Those properties whose deterioration values have exceeded 50% of the value of the structure is having to go through several clearance processes, both legal clearance processes. One being the Environmental Protection Agency, we have to have asbestos surveys. For the Historic Society and for our planning division, they have to clear those demolition requests because of the details necessary to evaluate those after they leave our hands and the hands of our board. Without going through a longer story, it takes some time for demolitions to take place because not only must we get the varied clearances, but there are also some issues that we have to complete with respect to permitting. And so that's why it takes so long for these demolitions to take place. Your demolitions are typically take after the date of the hearing up to 3 or 4 months after that hearing because of the various clearances that have to be provided before we proceed. Now, you have those properties that are overgrown, that the property is not highly hazardous, the property is secured. And let me back up a minute and tell you that highly hazardous entails a property that is extremely deteriorated and or open and vacant. Those are the requirements that are those things that make those properties eligible. When they're eligible, then they can be presented for hearing. Right now, we have an estimated 400 properties on our agenda, with the numbers growing and lowering as we present these properties to the hearing. For your clean and cut, where your properties are not open and vacant, we have contractors who, after 30 days notice, we are able to go on properties that are chronically overgrown and cut those and apply liens. Going back to our demolitions and clean and closes, we will apply a lien to the title of a property, and that property remains the ownership of the owner of record and not of the city of Atlanta. Are there any questions?
The Q&A is at the end, Jocelyn.
Okay, so anyway, this pretty much sums up the NREM process compliance resolution process. Now what we have is our organizational chart, which includes the entire department, and now including us as compliance resolution. We have inspectors that are dedicated to the housing demolition process. We also have research people that are specialized in doing the research necessary to find all the owners and parties and interests. And then our administrative people who assist in all sorts of projects having to do with identification and notification and following through with the demolition work and clean and close or clean and cut work that is completed through our part of the department. I think that about sums it up, and I thank you so much for listening. What we've got here, we do address commercial properties. We address vacant lots. We address commercial, industrial, residential properties. Vacant lots for clean and cut. This property that you see here and that you're seeing parts of through this is a major hotel area not far from the Midtown area, and that property was demolished by the owner. As you see, we are successful in reaching the owners, and the owners are also interested in getting the issues complied themselves to avoid the costly liens that the city will have to apply to their property if we have to use our contractors. We do have some successes in contacting the owners. As you see right here, we had properties that have identified in 2019, 2 of them. Actually, this is one property. You have the front view and you have the left side view. It's a 2-story property. And then you'll see on the bottom left, the renovation that has taken place. And the bottom right, the interior of the property that had been renovated by an investor and is currently occupied. This is an example of the successes that we have in reaching out to individuals. When we are able to reach them and they take action, beautiful things can happen. Your clean and close orders that have been issued. Your clean and close consists of the boarding and cleaning out of a structure, also cutting the grass and cleaning that. Now, we do have an opportunity as well as provided by City Council, and that is if a property has an order, whether it be clean and close or whether it be demolition, once that is completed, we are able to revisit a property to clean it up again. Okay, only it's one demolition, but we can clean up after the demolition if the grass grows on the spot that has been left after the demolition. So within 2 years of the date of the order, not necessarily the date of the execution of the action against that property, we can come back to it, just the prompting of your friends and neighbors, go back there to do the follow-up cleanup, and then apply another lien to that property. Again, we have multifamily dwellings, we have single-family dwellings, we have commercial and industrial. Now, for your code enforcement trivia, which process gives the city authority to take demolition action against the property? Which of those 3? Any answers? Any guess?
Administrative in REM.
That's one. We have 3, all 3. Administrative NREM, which is what I just described to you. Judicial NREM, which is NREM from the court level. And nuisance abatement, which can be construed as that clean and cut action that we take. Thank you, Philip Perry. You got the win.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
My
So
pleasure.
in 2012, City Council put into legislation for a vacant property registration. So a vacant property registration is the filing of a registration statement with code enforcement identifying a property as being vacant. The eligible properties are vacant buildings, dwellings, occupancy ceased, and no utilities for more than 60 days. Exclusions from this registry are vacant lots, condominiums, multifamily units, if the entire building is not vacant, seasonally vacant, and HUD-owned properties. The vacant property registration fees and penalties, valid for 12 months from date of registration, is $100 for new registration and $100 for annual renewals. Failure to register these, written notice would be issued and possible citations issued, fines up to $1,000 and imprisonment up to 180 days. Moving forward, coming soon, we're trying to put into play where this fee will be eliminated so that registration fees, you will still be required to register, or we will encourage you to register these properties, but the fee will no longer be attached. And here are some collaborative efforts among city agencies that we work with, such as other city department agencies, Georgia Power, Fulton County Animal Control, and Atlanta Housing Authority. That ends the APD code enforcement section presentation, and we can now go to questions.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yes, I have a three-part question. The first question, does code enforcement officers actually go out into the community and look at their area, if they're over NPU, whichever NPU they're over? Because the reason I ask that, I have called a plethora of times about overgrowth, grass, furniture being trashed in vacant lots. And we're in, I think I started calling in May. And as of today, everything is still there. Nothing has changed. It getting worse because people begin to, throw more furniture out because no one has came out to check that particular property. So I was curious about that. Do they actually just drive around the city to look at the infractions that is throughout the city of Atlanta? Because there's a lot of them that's not being addressed. Nobody's doing anything about it.
So that is correct. They do go out into the field. We have our code enforcement officers are assigned by your NPUs. Currently, we have right now we had some people to leave. So we did have one officer per NPU. Some of the larger NPUs may have two. But of course, as we went through the presentation, they are encouraged to do proactive cases, meaning they are encouraged to ride around and view properties that are in violation. Again, I know we aren't getting into personal or getting into specific properties, so we could put information into the chat if you wanted to send us information with those addresses so we can check, because I don't want to say we don't have them. It's possible. Like we stated, the process is long, depending on, sometimes we don't have people that voluntarily comply and we have to move to Jocelyn's area or other places. So with that being said, if you want, I would rather you reach out to us with
Okay.
those addresses so we can follow up.
Okay, thank you. And the second question. Now I saw they was talking about tires. Tires should be in storage containers. Now I have a question about that. Last year, a year before last, the code enforcement guy we had was amazing. I mean, he was on point from A through Z, outstanding, superb. I can go on and on about him. Now, this is my concern. They have this particular car place, and this gentleman, he changed a lot of tires. The tires are stored behind. He put a wooden fence up, but I noticed on the PowerPoint, it stated that the tires should be in storage containers. So we have several tire places. The tires are not in storage containers. They just stacked. Piles of tires are everywhere, and it is an eyesore in the community. So I guess if the code enforcement officer was out, he would actually see them, and because as of today, nothing has been done about those either. But I'll send that information in. That's why I asked the question. Do they actually go out? Because these tires are really, they have tires like every time you drive, you got a stack here, stack there. So I was just wondering why code enforcement hasn't been out to deal with that, and that's been going on for some years.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Level. We're gonna go to Ms. Rebecca Billy.
Hi, I have a question about, you mentioned exposed wiring. What if it's on like a sidewalk, but it is a utilities box where the wires are all pulled out? Would that be considered code enforcement, or would we report that somewhere else?
You meaning like a Georgia Power utility?
Like a cable, like AT&T or some cable box, like one of those large boxes that's kind of on a sidewalk somewhere. I think it's public property, but it's a business's.
So that would be more likely that company that is responsible for that. So Georgia Power or AT&T.
Okay, but if they don't fix it, is there
For-
somebody that can enforce it?
It wouldn't be us. Generally, with our unit, we only deal with things that are on actual private property. So we
Okay.
don't deal with right-of-ways or the streets or any of that. That generally falls under a different jurisdiction.
Okay.
So yeah, we wouldn't be able to enforce that.
I have one more about highly hazardous properties. What if there's one that's been there for a long time? It's set to be torn down eventually. I believe there's a permit, but it's just hasn't been torn down yet. At what point does code enforcement step in to make sure it gets torn down?
It's set to be torn down by us already?
Not by you, by the
Okay, by
the vacant lot with the structure with whose roof is falling in. And I'm just wondering at what point does code enforcement come in and say, look, you've got to do this?
So generally, if it's that would be a case by case. I would need to see if it's something we do have. And depending, so I did put my name, my information in the chat email for anybody who wants to get specifics. And that way I can forward them to the correct people to get you an update.
Thank you. That's all.
Mindy, did you have a question still?
Yeah. My question was for Jocelyn. I was curious how code enforcement decides if it's going to pursue admin in REM versus judicial in REM, and then a follow-up question of if the process, Jocelyn, that you sort of walked through is available somewhere publicly at like a step by step.
Okay, the step-by-step. We do have a website. Unfortunately, I am not averse at how to get you to it, but if you'll give me your contact information, I can certainly do that. With respect to how the selection is made, we are using the administrative in-rem process most frequently. The judicial in-rem process gets a little bit more involved and also is one that is handled outside of our office at the solicitor's office. So we prefer doing the administrative process as it is simplified. It is easier for us to manage. We have inspectors to handle everything that we have. And of course, you're dealing with administrative versus judicial. It tends to be more streamlined for your administrative process. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Certainly.
Right.
And please provide your contact information so that we can put you in touch with the process.
We're going to take a question from Melba, and then I have one from earlier, and then we're going to move on to ATL 311. Any other questions that we don't get to today? We have their email address in the chat, and we can place it back in there as well for those who did not get their questions answered. Melba?
I was saying I could wait. I am particularly interested in the commercial property code. When you go into code enforcement, like with trash and stuff, you can look up suite and all that kind of stuff. Is there anything that can bring up the codes for commercial properties, or is that something you have to know before going in there?
Are you talking about interior or exterior?
Exterior.
Okay, so that's handled pretty much the same way. We get the address and we make the phone calls if that's at all possible. We apply the same techniques in terms of research and identifying the people who are responsible. And there's also now a process, a civil process, that Ms. Parks might want to address, where the individuals at LLCs and corporations, which that doesn't make it commercial property, but it also makes a different bend on how we are able to reach people and how fast we're able to take action.
Thank you.
Mr. Perry was asking about how to be a board member. We just got 9. And so the city council and mayor's office, if there's an interest for being an in-rem board member, certainly you can inquire with them, or one of the board members, the existing board members, can certainly refer you to the mayor for review.
Okay, awesome. We're going to turn it over to ATL 311 code enforcement if you want to stay on. And if at the end we have time and you all can answer those remaining questions, you're more than welcome to do so. Jessica, Sade, are you ready?
Hello. Hello, I'm Jasmine. It's fine. I am the ATL 311 portfolio manager that supports code enforcement. And today I also have our community relations board member, Sade, on.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you all. Okay. Okay, so ATL 311 is the City of Atlanta's non-emergency call center line. So we handle non-emergency services, severe weather, public health, public safety events. An example of some of the public safety events and non-emergency services that we support are, for instance, the recent water main breaks throughout the city. So we would activate some of our call center agents and they would be on until the end of the disaster. So earlier I saw that you all had some questions between the differences between the code enforcement and public works, and here are some of the differences between code enforcement and public works. So the Department of Public Works, they inspect violations in the public right of way. And the city's right of way is considered such as public transportation, streets, and sidewalks. Code enforcement inspects violations that are residential or commercial private property. So here are a few of the violations that we get from code enforcement, and then we're going to go through a few with public works. So a few of the violations from code enforcement are overgrowth at residents or businesses, junk, trash, and debris at residents or businesses, and graffiti on abandoned businesses. On the other hand, public works would handle overgrowth, blocking the street signs, turning views, junk, trash, and debris on the right of way, graffiti on street signs, sidewalks, signal boxes, light poles, and things in the public right of way. These are a few of our metrics from January to July of this year. The code enforcement calls that we have received at 311 between January and July were 6,717. On average, we receive about 959 calls a month. And then our other sources, I apologize. Our other sources are chatbot, IVR, email, and social media. We received about 248 calls on average through those sources. Our top 5 calls that we get from code enforcement or that we've received in the last 6 months or so were junk, trash, and debris, overgrowth, junk vehicle violations, vacant lot overgrowth, junk, trash, and debris, and interior water leak or flooding. And these are the same metrics for public works. We received about 2,493 calls for public works from January 1st throughout July. On average, we received about 356 calls per month. And through our other sources, we took about 1,383 cases from web, fax, email, and chatbot. And these are our top call drivers for public works: illegal dumping, right-of-way maintenance and litter removal, solid waste education enforcement team investigation requests, right-of-way maintenance visibility overgrowth issues, and grass cutting. And this department is supported by Sade. I will let you take that, Sade.
So we do have the call center where we have the general types of calls. So your non-emergency pothole related, Department of Watershed, and things like that. We also have our specialized team, which is the supportive services team. Over on the supportive services side, there is a much smaller, intimate team that does focus on quality of life concerns that our constituents within the city of Atlanta may be experiencing. And those can include things related to mental health, any substance abuse, extreme poverty, encampments that you may see, and then also any other types of homelessness or, again, quality of life concerns in general. So maybe clothing related or any other types of basic needs. We are able to service the city of Atlanta specifically for most resources. So for any calls that may come in from Decatur or College Park areas, we do try to connect them with whatever may be in their area, but sometimes it's a bit difficult, as most of our resources are for the city. With that, we partner with a plethora of different types of agencies that are located throughout the state of Georgia and the city of Atlanta. One that is popular is the Policing Alternatives and Diversion Initiative, also known as PAD. If you've all ever called in, you may have seen an individual that was maybe asking for food with a sign or things of that nature. We are able to have a team go out once a referral is completed. And from there, we'll try to get the individuals that are maybe on the streets or kind of in a bad way connected with things like clothing, food, shelter. Sometimes it's other types of temporary resources based on the need and what the circumstances are, but we are able to do that as well. As far as any other types of assistance, we do partner with Partners for Home, the Office of Constituent Services, the Georgia Crisis and Access Line, and other resources like that to assist in things with housing, mental health, any substance use, or even just financial resources for the time being. We do have a few programs where we are assisting individuals with things like financial assistance for rent or eviction prevention and things of that nature. If you are interested in ever completing a referral for an individual related to housing or food or anything like that, if there's a family that that is in need of assistance, we are able to assist as well. And you would just need to call in 2311 to get in touch with us by dialing our 3-digit number or our 10-digit number, which is here. So we have 404-546-0311. Right now, we are 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. for the supportive services team specifically. We'll get into the hours and how our hours have extended a bit later, but for the time being, the supportive services team is operating from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. And extended hours are coming hopefully soon, but we do want to finalize all of that so that we are able to offer the best resources. And then here's just some more information about what we do specifically with PAD, which is, again, the Policing Alternatives and Diversion Initiative. We do try to have PAD go out for any calls that are, again, non-emergencies, where we don't want to necessarily lock up the APD's dispatch line. So we want to make sure that the APD is able to assist in emergency situations. And then for things like disturbances where someone may be yelling outside of a business, any public indecency, welfare issues. So again, someone asking for food with a sign, maybe any mental health issues that a person may be experiencing, substance use, any other types of basic needs or public health related concerns. We do try to have PAD go out to assist. Their response time is great. It's usually well within or well under 30 or so minutes. They do have several different teams that do go out and they try to canvass areas just to locate individuals, whether it's providing them with food, have shoes inside of their cars, hygiene kits and things like that. So we are able to try to get those individuals some assistance.
All right. Thank you, Sade. Our hours of operation currently for 311, we operate from 7 a.m. until 12 midnight. So you can call in. We can be reached by email, chatbot. You can reach us on our app. Once you go to the website, you're able to submit cases on the website, and we are on all social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Backdoor, Click, Stick, Fix. So any of the social media websites, we are on those websites, and you are able to submit cases through those sites. Oh, I don't know what is happening. Okay. And so, like I said, you can always go to the app and submit requests. You can view your service requests on the app. You can follow us on social media and submit things that way. You can also access a map of the city and find your location specifically on the app. And again, access all of our services offered through 311 and city services. And we're also available in English and Spanish. All right, and we've discussed our hours of operation. Once you call in to 311 during the hours of operation, you will be directed to a call center representative. After hours of operation, you can use the other methods to contact us. And you do not have to create an account to submit anything on the web portal. If you do not have an account or you submitted a case previously, you can type in your case number to check the status of those cases, or you can call in and speak to a live agent. When you do create a case, you will receive a case number. If you have several issues, several cases will be created, you'll have several case numbers. Or if you call in and you have submitted a case previously and it needs to be escalated, you will receive a follow-on case number for those cases also. Okay. And here is a video about our mobile app.
How to submit a case using the new ATL 311 chatbot. You can now chat with a virtual agent to create a case for potholes, code enforcement, business licenses, and more. Additionally, you can search for city information and check the status of existing requests. Let's get started. Step 1. Download the ATL 311 mobile app. Once you are in, press the Create button. This button will prompt you to start a new case. Follow the steps and answer the questions as accurately as possible. Let's create a case for a pothole. Start by selecting the Create a Case button. The chatbot will then prompt you to select a specific case type. To report a pothole, you would select Streets and Sidewalks. The chatbot will break down the case type to more specific service issues. For our pothole example, we will click Report a Pothole. The next step is to let us know if it is on the city street or a state route. Answering this question accurately will ensure your service request is submitted to the correlating department. Next, provide the location of the pothole. The chatbot will ask you to provide the address or to use your current location. Provide the address and the city of the service request. The next step is to provide your name, email, and phone number for contact information. You will be prompted to add contact information as an individual, a business, or anonymously. When submitting cases, the chatbot will also ask for specific questions to gather as much information as possible. Once all of the questions are answered, you will receive a case number. This case number can be used to track updates on the case. And that's how you submit a case using the ATL 311 chatbot.
All right. Any questions? Okay, that concludes ATL 311's presentation. Thank you all. Oh, I see a question. Mr. Anthony, you have a question?
Yes. You said your operation hours are from 7 a.m. to midnight.
Yes.
And I didn't hear what happens after hours. Are we directed to a voicemail or to a live person or
So
something?
after hours, you won't reach a live person. So our IBR will ask you to call back during hours, or you can go online and physically submit your case through the app, but you won't be able to talk to a representative after hours.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions for ATL 311? Okay, Jasmine, Sade, straight to the point. They got it. Wait a minute. We have something in the chat. Oh, okay. So we did have a question for APD code enforcement from Ms. Carolyn. I need to find it. And for those participants who were not able to answer your questions earlier, we do have time left if you want to get those questions answered. Ms. Carolyn, I'm looking for your questions. If you want to raise your hand, if your question wasn't answered, anyone else, please feel free. This is the opportunity to take. Oh, I found it. So this question is for APD code enforcement. You all referred to a single ordinance in the beginning. However, they said that they are also responsive to other applicable ordinances. What are those other ordinances for which code enforcement is accountable for? If anyone from code enforcement would like to chime in.
So we are responsible for enforcing the City of Atlanta's housing code ordinance along with the commercial industrial building code. So those are the two ordinances that we enforce.
Not to be confused, we also have SWEET officers, and that is solid waste education team, and they're actually going to teach a course later on. So if you all are inquiring about them, they will actually be the next class that you all will have. Miss Rebecca.
I think mine might be for later as well, but my question is for items such as overgrowth and trash in public right-of-ways, it's kind of a continuing problem and needs to be maintained. Are we supposed to do a 311 report every time that the overgrowth needs to be cut back, or does that eventually go to Public Works and they just have it scheduled? Because we seem to be having to do a 311 report every time.
So the preferred method is to contact 311 if there is something that has not been done in the time frame that we give when you call 311. Then you are more than welcome to call back, and we will escalate that concern for you.
Okay, it's done. It's getting done, but then it grows back, and we have to do another 311 report. So we're just continuously going through 311 versus just having it scheduled maintenance.
Okay, so I don't know if Public Works will schedule maintenance for certain areas. Let me see. Ms. Rachel, are you on?
Yes, I am. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Rachel Beverly. I'm the Senior Portfolio Manager with ATL 311, and I support actually the Department of Public Works. So I can tell you that right-of-way maintenance is scheduled. Things like litter removal, grass cutting, those things are done on a schedule. But of course, if you find that the schedule was missed for any reason, then you can certainly call 311 and submit a request. But I do understand your frustration. You're saying that you feel you shouldn't have to. If it's scheduled, it needs to be done on that schedule. And as far as that right-of-way maintenance is concerned, I will let DPW speak to that. But I can tell you that sometimes the resources for right-of-way maintenance are pulled for other things. So it may be something like special operations. You know, if you can think about the Peachtree Road Race, which occurred in July, sometimes those resources are pulled for other initiatives. And so that delays that scheduled service.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a way to find out if it's even scheduled? Would I research or contact Public Works for that to find out if the certain areas are even on a schedule to be maintained?
So there is a knowledge article that you can access on the 311 web portal. It's grass cutting. If you just search for grass cutting, it will show you based on the quadrant what months that service is scheduled for. So do you know can you tell me what quadrant you're in?
Nope. But I'll look at it.
Northwest, southeast.
Southwest Atlanta, Castleberry Hill neighborhood. Castleberry Hill.
Okay, so Southwest is scheduled for grass cutting in February, April, June, August, October, and December.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Beverly. I didn't realize you hopped on. Are there any more questions? Okay. Well, that's fun. Well, looks like we get a good 35 minutes or so back. Everyone in the chat, you will see that I dropped a link. That is the link for our evaluation. I ask that you please take 2 to 3 minutes to complete that evaluation. We want to make sure that our code enforcement cohorts are beneficial and we need your input. So please just take those 2 to 3 minutes to complete that. And you'll also receive an email with the slide decks from both instructors, code enforcement as well as ATL 311. If there aren't any questions, I'm going to go to my last slides. I want to thank ATL 311. I want to thank Atlanta Police Department Code Enforcement. You all were awesome, and I really appreciate you all partnering with us each year to continue this program. So thank you all. Round of applause for coming on. And then I'm going to close this out as soon as I can share my screen. So if you all can see my screen. All right. Our upcoming NPU University courses and events are as follows. Because we have a few minutes, I can actually go through all of them. Tomorrow, we have our Advanced Parliamentary Procedures course. It is a mock meeting. This is the first time that we are doing this course. It's actually pretty awesome. If you are active in your neighborhood, you're active in your NPU, you're active in your civic association, or you're active in any type of board that meets, this class is for you. We're going to go through mock meeting situations, and our certified parliamentarian is actually going to lead this course. So it is tomorrow at 6 p.m. online. So if you are interested, please register. This Saturday, we are hosting our Love Thy Neighbor neighborhood block party, and this time is going to actually be in Adamsville. This is our second one doing this as we're celebrating 50 years of neighborhood planning units. And then we have our Atlanta Community Engagement Playbook course, which is going to be Saturday, September 21st. That's next Saturday. That course is actually in person. We have had some participants cancel their registration. So if you would like to register for that course, please log on to npuatlanta.org. We do have a few slots remaining. You all's next course is our Code Enforcement Academy Session 2 with the Department of Public Works. Is going to be Wednesday, September 25th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. At the end of the month, we have our Density Matters and Neighborhood Revitalization course, as well as our Introduction to Geographic Information Systems. As you can see, the times are really consistent with these courses, 6 to 8 p.m., usually on a Thursday. The GIS course is actually on a Monday. And to register for any of these courses, you will log on to npuatlanta.org. And that's for all information and all things NPU, by the way. I would like to thank you all for joining us tonight. I cannot wait to see you in 2 weeks. You can follow us for more information on neighborhood planning units at NPU Atlanta on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also follow us on the Nextdoor app under the City of Atlanta neighborhood name. And we also, this course will be on YouTube as well as our other NPU University course videos under the name NPU Atlanta. So if there are any more questions, concerns, or anything of that nature, you all have a good night and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye, y'all.
I just had one quick question before we go. You had mentioned, or there was an email somewhere about to obtain credit for the course. Is there some sort of a certificate at the end of the sequence of courses?
Yes. So at the end of the code enforcement, if you complete all 5 courses, you do receive a certificate, and that's upon request. If you request it, it will be made available for you. We also have our Citizen Planner Certificate Program, where you actually complete a series of certificates, and this certificate is signed by the mayor. And that's the overall NPU University course, but all the information can be found on npuatlanta.org. But once you complete this series, you will receive a certificate.
Thank you.
No problem. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.